It started with Finn's cat, Whiskers. Or, more accurately, it started with what happened after Finn's parents brought home a strange, injured dog from the woods behind their house. The dog was a scruffy, trembling thing with eyes that seemed too dark, too devoid of warmth. Finn was wary but curious. He'd never seen anything like it in their small town. His parents insisted they take it in, believing local wildlife rescue would do better if they kept it for a few days. The night they brought the dog home, something changed. Finn had always been a quiet kid, more comfortable in his own world of books and video games. But that night, as they settled in, he noticed Whiskers, usually a sprightly, curious cat, sitting stiffly on the windowsill, staring blankly outside. Finn called to her, and she blinked lazily, then suddenly snapped her head to look directly at Finn's face. Her pupils shrunk into tiny, glowing pinpricks. A cold shiver ran down his spine. "Whiskers?" he asked softly, leaning closer. But she didn't blink or move. It was as if she had become a puppet, her eyes fixed and unblinking. The following morning, Finn's parents announced the dog had died overnight, its breathing shallow and erratic. They buried it in the backyard, an innocent act, or so they thought. That night, Finn woke up to a strange sound. It was a low, guttural growl coming from the direction of the living room. He crept out of bed, clutching his flashlight. As he entered the room, he froze. Whiskers was sitting on the couch, but her fur was matted, her eyes glowing faintly with an unnatural hue. And there, on the floor, was the dog's body, inexplicably twitching, as if it was still alive but silent. Then Whiskers turned her head slowly, eyes locking with Finn's. Her voice, a deep, gravelly whisper, echoed in his mind as much as in the room. "They're coming." Finn stumbled back, heart pounding. He wanted to scream, to run, but his body refused to obey. Whiskers leapt off the couch with unnatural agility, and her form seemed to ripple like disturbed water. In her place now stood something else, something lined with darkness, fur pulled tight over bones that looked too sharp. The eyes, however, remained those same glowing orbs. The animal possessed a sinister intelligence, and its voice was no longer just a whisper but a voice that crawled beneath Finn's skin. "Help is coming," it hissed. "And we will claim what is ours." Finn's mind raced. Was this some kind of curse? A possession? Or had the animals of the woods been altered somehow, maybe by the strange dog's death? He remembered stories his grandfather told about old legends, about animals not just acting strange, but becoming vessels for something darker, something from beneath the earth or between the shadows. He tried to speak, to demand what it wanted, but the creature, no, the entity, overpowered him with images. Shadowy figures lurking in the trees, countless animals, cats, dogs, squirrels, swaying in unison, their eyes glowing with the same unnatural light. The sensation washed over him as if a cold wind had stuffed into his mind. He felt the animal's consciousness invade him, filling his thoughts with images of them moving through the night, spreading their influence. They weren't merely possessed animals, they were an army, a conduit for something ancient and hungry, waiting for the right moment to rise. Over the next few days, Finn's house grew cold and silent. His family noticed he was more withdrawn, eyes glassy, as if he were always listening to something just beyond the veil of their reality. Whiskers, or what now looked like Whiskers, appeared at his window at dusk, staring into the darkness with her glowing eyes, waiting. And then, there was the night when his parents left for town, and Finn was alone. He awoke to an unearthly chorus, a chorus of animal screams, growls, and murmurs that echoed through the night. Outside, the woods seemed to swell with movement. Shadows darted among the trees, and the animals that had once been ordinary now moved with a cruel and deliberate purpose. Finn realized, with terror, that the animals weren't just possessed, they were gathering, plotting. They weren't animals anymore, but vessels, scarred, hungry, and waiting. The next morning, Finn awoke with a start. The house was eerily still, the sunlight filtering weakly through the curtains. Whiskers was gone. In her place was a trail of hair and dirt leading out the door. He followed the trail into the woods, heart pounding. The woods had become a shuddering void of movement and whispers, shadows dancing at the edge of his vision. He called out, but only silence replied. Finn knew what he had to do. He had to stop it. Whatever it was. The ancient force threatening to emerge, couldn't be allowed to. Gathering his courage, he remembered the old tales of legends and rituals. Maybe, if he could confront the animals and break their hold, he could prevent them from unleashing whatever evil they carried. He took a deep breath, clutching a small, worn talisman his grandmother had given him. With trembling hands, he stepped into the woods, calling out for Whiskers with a voice that wavered but was determined. The woods responded with silence. Then, a gust of cold wind knocked him backward. Shadows coalesced into a mass, animal forms blending into a dark, writhing shape, and slowly, the glowing eyes turned toward him. Finn raised the talisman high, shouting an old incantation he barely remembered. The shadows recoiled, shrieking echoes and animal voices overlapping in chaos. The darkness twisted and spun, fighting to maintain its hold. Suddenly, the weather turned cold, and a glow erupted from the talisman. The shadows shrieked and dispersed, animals scattering in all directions, their glowing eyes fading into oblivion. Finn collapsed to his knees, exhausted but relieved as the darkness was banished, at least for now. He returned home, exhausted and shaken, knowing that the battle was over but aware, deep down, that it could return. The animals might have been freed from their possession, but their strange, sinister presence had left a mark on the woods and on him. And somewhere in the shadows, he still felt that faint, sinister gaze watching and waiting.